on to the big headline, of course, around the public protector. The process of appointing the new PP is on the way, and 8 people have been shortlisted out of 36 candidates. And the public protector is an independent institution established to support and strengthen constitutional democracy. And for some reaction on the latest developments, we're joined by Lawson Naidoo from the Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution. Lawson, thank you so much for your time. Out of the 36 that didn't make it to the short list of 8, do you want to reflect on those and why perhaps they weren't successful? Or shall we just cut to the chase and look at who could be the next public protector? Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you, Cindy. Yeah, look, I mean, I think the critical issue here is the process that's been followed. Clearly there were the 36 or 38 applicants. The committee has gone through a shortlisting process. They've narrowed it down to 8 candidates, which I think is certainly an improvement on the process 7 years ago when they tried to interview 14 candidates in one day and ended up finishing it after 2 a.m. in the morning. And the fact that they're going to be doing it over 2 days, I think, is welcome. It gives each candidate sufficient time. But I think it's also important that Parliament and the committee establishes some clear criteria against which these 8 candidates will be measured. That there should be, a set of questions that is posed to each of the candidates, so that the process is fair, and that political parties, I think, some of them have jumped the gun and already publicly said who they will support and who they will not support. I think that undermines the credibility of the process. This needs to be a fair, open, and transparent process, but also a robust one, so that at the end of the day, the candidate that emerges, has public confidence in them. So I think there's a huge responsibility on Parliament to make sure that they get the process right. So we should not so much focus on the outcome, but really on the process.
All right, now Lawson, earlier on we were speaking to the ad hoc committee chair, and in particular what the reputation of the Public Protector's Office is currently. And that, of course, is a concern considering the events of that led up to the Section 194 with the suspension of Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane. That would be a process now to reposition the Public Protector's Office, in your view.
Indeed, I think, unfortunately, the Office of the Public Protector has become very much politicized. And I think, we see that play out on a regular basis. Political parties engage in politicking using the Office of the Public Protector and their reports to score political points. And I think that's something that the next Public Protector is going to have a tough job to do, is to restore public confidence in that institution, that it does actually execute its mandate without fear, favor, or prejudice, that it focuses on the needs of ordinary South Africans and is able to tackle maladministration in the public service as it is constitutionally mandated to do. It's also, I think worth pointing out that, the Office of the Public Protector and the Auditor General are 2 of the Chapter 9 institutions that are headed by a single individual. The others, such as the Electoral Commission and so on, they have a team of people, a panel of commissioners. So these are critical institutions, the Public Protector and Auditor General, and Parliament must really make sure that the person with the right credibility, the right skills and experience, because this is someone who's going to be running a large institution. So whilst all of the shortlisted candidates have the sort of basic technical competencies in terms of their legal backgrounds and so on. One of the key questions I think Parliament needs to ask is, what is the experience of these candidates in terms of running a large organization and managing staff and a budget and engaging with the Treasury and Parliament and so on. So, it needs to be a person that is going to be able to hold their own in operating at that level.
All right, I'm not sure how much time you've had to peruse the CV, the curricula vitae of the 8 shortlisted candidates, and whether we can really say it's a foregone conclusion that the Deputy Advocate Caleka would necessarily come up tops above her peers.
Well, I don't think it's helpful to try and sort of preempt the outcome of this process that Parliament is going to be going through. There's a lot of work that the committee will be doing over the next couple of weeks in terms of vetting and screening and getting more information about each of those 8 shortlisted candidates, and then the interview process itself. So I think it would not be good for the process to try and prejudge the outcome. Certainly the current acting public protector and deputy public protector is amongst those. There are 7 other candidates, and the committee has chosen, and I think we must give all of those candidates an opportunity to present their cases to the committee. I think there has been some commentary that many of the candidates are unknown. That's obviously one of the factors to be taken into account, but it should not rule someone out simply because they're not known to the general public or to Parliament and the committee members. So for me, I think spelling out some of those criteria in more detail is what's going to help the process, help Parliament to come to the right conclusion, whether it's the current acting public protector or one of the other candidates. But there needs to be solid grounds for recommending a candidate and to be able to satisfy the public that Parliament has undertaken a robust process and that they're nominating a candidate and setting out the reasons why they believe that candidate will be able to take over as public protector and, as I say, restore public confidence in that institution.
And not to labour the point, but she does have the advantage of institutional knowledge, having been the deputy and acting public protector. So in a natural progression, the deputy would become the public protector. But we know in this very peculiar case is that the interviews have to be conducted, and then the president will ultimately endorse the nomination that would be forwarded by the ad hoc committee. But having said that, she looks most likely to be to have an advantage over her peers. Lawson?
Well, not necessarily so, Cindy. If we, cast our minds back 7 years, then Deputy Public Protector Kevin Malunga was one of the candidates who was interviewed for the position in 2016, and he did not succeed. So I don't think one can assume that the Deputy Public Protector will have a sort of an advantage in seeking the top job. So, I think, to be fair to all of the candidates, that Parliament needs to approach this with an open mind to say, we've shortlisted these people, let's examine them in more detail before coming to conclusions. Obviously, being in the office provides Advocate Kaleka with certain advantages of understanding the office, but there are other candidates, with experience, maybe different experience, but maybe equally relevant to executing the role.
Yeah, and a reminder what the public protector ought to do as Chapter 9 institution, that of protecting, upholding the Constitution and holding to account the executive and hearing the voices or the plight of South Africans, the poorest of the poor. In outlining those objectives, and we look at the cases that have come before the public protector, in most cases, we just want to hear the more sexy and sensational stories with regards to high profile candidates, etc., and politicians in particular. But their work actually goes unnoticed in the grassroots of society, doesn't it, Lawson?
Absolutely. You've explained it very crisply there, Cindy. That's the real function of this office, is to help people who would otherwise not have access to the legal system in order to challenge unjust decisions that are taken by civil servants, public servants, whether it be in the Department of Home Affairs, Traffic Department, or the like. And it's really to assist those people and ensure that the benefits of the Constitution are applied equally to all people in South Africa. So that's really its fundamental role. Regrettably, we focus on the high profile, the sensational cases that involve high-level politicians and so on. But the real work of this office is in helping ordinary South Africans with, the day-to-day challenges that people face by unscrupulous public servants and, maladministration in the public sector. So, that's the work that largely goes unnoticed, but it's really the work that makes a difference or ought to make a difference to the lives of ordinary people.
And just as a matter of interest, Lawson, in terms of the cases that now are currently under the soon-to-end tenure of the suspended public protector, what happens in the continuation thereof, or to get them to a point where it's either been resolved, or is it a case where once the out with the old, in with the new, and everything else in between is discarded?
No, and I think that, the important point, this is an institution. It's not, it may be headed by an individual who is called the public protector, but it is an institution with officers across the country, with the teams of investigators that do the daily work of investigating complaints and reaching conclusions and solutions. So, the issues that are before the Office of the Public Protector will continue. There should be a smooth handover from the one incumbent to the next, and as I say, the staff of the office is what will ensure the continuity of these investigations and the outcomes. So it's not a question of whether they come to a halt in October this year because there's a changing of the guard. The work must continue, and hopefully will continue smoothly, and that we'll see an improvement in the performance of the office dealing with the complaints that it receives, and really being, as I say, primarily being responsible for restoring public confidence in that institution, so that people feel that if they take a complaint to the Office of the Public Protector, they will have their concerns heard, investigated, and hopefully resolved.
Yes, and we know that there are political machinations behind the scenes as well, and with only the Democratic Alliance opting not to nominate any of the candidates, in break with tradition, they now waived their right to nominate a candidate. We'll get back to what the political significance thereof of appointing a public protector, particularly in a multi-party sitting. The question I want to ask is, so if the new public protector wants to review certain cases or, resolutions of findings that were under a previous public protector, can they do that? In other words, can we see the resurface of a Pala or a SAIEX report or any other that may be brought up through a civil society, members of parliament that were not satisfied with the previous public protector's findings? Lawson?
Well, once a report is finalized and made public, that's the end of the matter. The report is final and binding, as we know from the judgment of the Constitutional Court, and can only be set aside by a court on review. So cases that have been resolved by the public protector should not be reopened simply because there's someone else in office. This is work that has been done, has been completed, and they need to focus on the current and the new complaints that will arise for their attention. So I don't think, and I think this is the danger of the over-politicization of this office, which has really, brought it into disrepute. And I think political parties in particular have a responsibility not to try and use or abuse the processes of the Office of the Public Protector to score political points.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Lawson Naidoo, thank you very much. He is from the Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution. In short, it is CASAC. Thank you so much, Lawson. We go back to